Now we are prepared to turn our eyes to the future. Nissan is now the leading Japanese brand in China, Russia, and Mexico, as is on track to become the largest volume Asian brand in Europe by fiscal year 2016. The 248,000 employees that make up the Nissan team around the world embody the diversity, the creativity, and the drive that add value to our cross-functional and cross-cultural work. If we continue to demonstrate that the power comes from inside, we will be able to achieve all the midterm plan goals. We know how to define issues, prioritize tasks, and tackle those tasks to work toward effective solutions, putting the Nissan way and value up in practice every day.
In 1910, roads in Japan looked like this. There were no cars, only coaches and horses. In 1911, Masujiro Hashimoto, an entrepreneur, started an automobile factory, Kaishinsha Motor Works. He was selected as a trainee by the Japanese government and sent to study in the United States. In March 1914, Kaishinsha designed and built a new car. It was unique on the market for being produced only in Japan. The name DAT represented the initials of the company's 3 principal backers. In 1926, Kaishinsha merged with Jitsuyo Jidosha Seizo and became DAT Jidosha Seizo. Later in the early 1930s, the company developed an all-new compact car as a more affordable alternative for the Japanese people at that time. At first, the car was named Datsun with S-O-N, meaning son of Dat, but soon after, it was changed to Datsun with S-U-N, because the word son, S-O-N, means loss in Japanese. Yoshisuke Aikawa was a young entrepreneur who established the Tobata Foundry Company at the age of 30. Aikawa predicted that motorization would grow in Japan. But no financial institutions believed that the Japanese automotive industry would be successful. He convinced the banks to invest in the young industry. Aikawa acquired the Datsun vehicle manufacturing business from DAT Jidosha Seizo and founded Nissan in 1933. Nissan's name comes from the Japanese words Nihon Sangyo, meaning Japanese industry. The name expressed Aikawa's determination to create a new industry in Japan. While other major companies have been named for their founders, Nissan's name shows its strong commitment to contributing to society. Nissan Motor was established in December 1933. This picture was taken to commemorate the foundation of the company. Nissan is a company which has valued diversity since its foundation. William Gorham was one of the key engineers who implemented mass production in Japan. His philosophy was to value and leverage both American and Japanese competitive advantages. He was involved in both technology development and the management of Nissan during the early years. He led the project to build the Yokohama plant. In April 1935, the first mass production plant in Japan and Nissan's first plant, the Yokohama plant, began operation. Datsun 14 was the first Japanese automobile made in the plant and was an iconic, affordable car. In 1936, Nissan began exports of Datsun to Asia, Australia, and Latin America. Nissan exported its very first production model overseas, which contributed to its success in Japanese industry. During World War II, industry in Japan almost collapsed. Nissan lost property and people to the war. After the war, Nissan made significant recovery efforts to restart production of trucks and passenger cars. In 1952, Nissan began a technical partnership with Austin Motor, a UK company building the British cars in Japan in order to improve its technological expertise. In the late 1950s, consumers once again began to appreciate the value of products made in Japan. This was the beginning of Nissan's recovery. The automobile was also becoming a common means of transportation in Japan. This was motorization. In 1955, the first all-new passenger car, Datsun 110, was released after World War II. Nissan had overseas success, winning an extremely grueling motorsport event in Australia with its evolution model Datsun 210. At the same time, Nissan began its first exports to the United States. The late 1950s and the 1960s were a period of expansion for Nissan. Nissan started production at Yulon Motor in Taiwan and established a new plant in Mexico. In Japan, the Oppama and Zama plants were built. The 1960s was one of the brightest eras in Nissan's history, with the debut of many remarkable cars. The Datsun Bluebird 510, the Skyline 2000 GTR, and the first Z-Car. Today's Nissan GTR finds its origins in the Skyline 2000 GTR, and the Z-Car is still the world's most popular sports car after more than 40 years. In the 1970s, Nissan further expanded its business, especially in Japan. The production volume in Japan increased dramatically with the launch of 2 new plants in Tochigi and Kyushu. In 1972, Nissan achieved accumulated total production of 10 million units, with market share in Japan reaching 33.8%. In the 1980s, Nissan moved into the next phase of expansion, increasing operations outside of Japan. Production started in Spain, in the United States, and the United Kingdom. Nissan was a front-runner of global expansion among the Japanese automakers. As Nissan brand sales continued to increase, the company introduced a new luxury brand, Infiniti. In 1989, Infiniti Q45 was launched in the United States. In the 90s, the Japanese economy faced a difficult situation. 1991 saw a global recession triggered by the First Gulf War. And Japan also experienced a serious recession throughout the 1990s, the so-called lost decade. During this period, Nissan faced severe business challenges, low profitability and low cash flow. And in 1999, Nissan almost fell into bankruptcy. That year, Nissan and Renault signed an agreement for a global alliance, including equity participation, which injected needed cash into the company. In June 1999, Carlos Ghosn was appointed COO of Nissan. And 4 months after that, in October 1999, he announced the Nissan Revival Plan.
Establishing the plan represents at most 5% of the challenge. 95% of the challenge now lies in its execution. That's what we are going to focus on from now on. The direction is clearly and firmly established. The excellence in the implementation will be key to delivering the full potential of the Nissan Revival Plan.
And in 2002, Nissan sales and profit turned black. Nissan Revival Plan was completed 1 year earlier than planned. In May 2002, an operating profit of 10.8% was achieved, and Nissan announced a new 3-year business plan, Nissan 180. Again, this business plan was successfully accomplished within 3 years. In April 2005, the Nissan Value Up business plan started. Infiniti expansion toward new regions accelerated. And in June 2006, Nissan achieved a milestone, producing its 100 millionth car. In 2008, the global financial crisis spread across the world. Nissan faced a tough situation, but by acting swiftly, was able to achieve a quick recovery. In August 2009, Nissan unveiled the Nissan Leaf, the world's first electric car designed for affordability and real-world requirements. Nissan has proven that it is a leading manufacturer of electric vehicles and an innovative player in the field. We will drive the EV industry forward. In 2011, several large-scale natural disasters occurred, including the earthquake in eastern Japan and flooding in Thailand. However, Nissan proved its ability to recover. All the people of Nissan worked together to overcome these challenges and generated remarkable business results. Nissan enriching people's lives is a mentality that has been nurtured for 80 years of Nissan's history. This is our vision. The power comes from inside. We know that there will be more challenges in the future, but as a team, we are confident that we can always achieve our goals.